Hey everybody, welcome back to another Citrus Corner. I am George, the Italiano, your host with the most. I got my buddies here, Slimer and Starship. We're going to discuss some interesting topics at Walt Disney World, proclaiming to Tiana's Bayou Adventure. We're even going to dive into some maybe possible future projects at Epcot. We're also even going to dive into a little bit with Universal's Epic Universe and see what these guys have to say about it. Coming up on Citrus Corner, part of OG 55. Hey everyone, welcome back to Citrus Corner. As I said before, I'm George, the Italiano, and I got a fantastic panel with me today to discuss some Walt Disney World, some Universal. But before we do that, let me introduce them to you, shall I? Starting right to my right is Mr. Slimer. Slimers be Slimin'. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great, George. Thanks for having me back on. And Starship, thanks for coming on. And this was your idea, I believe, for this video. Looking forward to chatting with you, hearing your ideas. Usually we talk to each other in the comments and the videos, but now we get to talk in person. So I'm looking forward to this chat. As far as you can find me on SlimeSquare84 on X, and you can find me right here on Orange Grove 55.
Awesome. And Starship, yeah, Slimers had said, thanks for coming back on the channel and discussing these topics with us. And it's always a good time. And if you would like to let everyone know where they can find you on social media.
Yes. So, as you can see, I am a faceless avatar today because I don't have my camera set up. But you can find me on Twitter at StarshipH24. And you can also find me on YouTube at StarshipH24. And yeah, let's get into it.
All right. Yeah, let's shall. So the first topic that we're going to discuss today is actually one of the topics that Starship wanted to talk about, and that is Tiana's Bayou Adventure, an attraction that has absolutely no rift whatsoever. You know, it's just a nothing tied to it whatsoever.
No one's been talking about it at all.
No one's been talking about it, so we should talk about it some more on here. Why not? So recently, I had a few friends that actually just attended the D23 event for the early access for Tiana's, and so far they said there was, as far as for them goes, they had no operational issues for Tiana's, so that's good. So hopefully it's on the upturn, because I know since it started, even with the annual pass previews and the media previews, I mean, the operations for this attraction has just been, dare I say it, god awful. But hopefully it'll turn up. But as we said before on the show before, I feel like with everything that's tied to this ride, the history, the backlash, the controversy, however you spin it, whether you love it or you hate it, no matter which side you're on, you're going to be wrong at some point or another. What's your take on it, Starship?
I agree. I mean, you're either a hater or a shill. There's no in between with people online. Well, I mean, yeah. So the way I feel about the ride is, obviously I've not been on it in person yet. I'm only going off of videos here. But from what I will say, my first impression of watching Disney's god awful POV was that I actually didn't think it was that bad. I was like, oh, this is pretty good. It's nice. It's not bad. And I mean, I quite liked it. My only gripes really that I have is that there's kind of too many screens towards the end. I don't like the screen with Mama Odie before the drop. I think that's not very well done. I like the fireflies on the side. They're nice, but I think having some smaller, like, firefly animatronics going around. They don't have to be advanced super audio animatronics like we have. Like, they could be like the frogs around there, just like little fireflies going around. And yeah, a lot of people were complaining about all the dead space in the middle. I mean, I don't really think it's that bad. I didn't really notice much dead space. I mean, there were some dark spots, but it wasn't that bad. Disney's video made it seem like it was way worse, and then I watched a bunch of other videos, and it's really it's not bad. The only real, like I said, the only problem I have really is just those screens towards the end, and the fact that there's like no danger at all. And a lot of people have been complaining about that. No Dr. Facilier. And I understand that there's some sort of issue with Dr. Facilier with the whole voodoo stuff and the, you know, him being problematic. I know nothing about that. So I'm just going off of my own observations, and that I don't see why they couldn't have had Dr. Facilier, or at least his quote unquote friends on the other side, like in the ride at all. I don't know. That's just me. Overall, I think it's pretty good. I don't think it's worse than Splash Mountain. I don't know if it's better or not. I obviously haven't been on it, so I'm going to reserve judgment there until I actually ride it. But so far, I think it's a very good attraction. I mean, when was the last time we got like 40 animatronics in any ride ever?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, and we're lucky we got the one from Navi River Journey. You know, it's like, but as far as for Dr. Facilier goes, I know that there was a lot of talks, and this wasn't confirmed nor denied by Disney. But the whole notion of that they wanted to kind of get away from the voodoo aspect of it. But what was kind of interesting with that is they still incorporate Dr. Facilier like in a lot of like with the merchandising. I've seen like a lot of stuff in the stores and what have you. So I don't know if there's like a fine line of like how they want to utilize him, or if that is just part of the rumor mill and it really has nothing to do with that. What say you, Slimer?
Yeah, I agree. And it's hard to differentiate between what's rumor and what's fact, but I can tell you this. I really hope they warm up to the idea to bringing Dr. Facilier into Tiana's Bayou Adventure for at least a Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party overlay, because I think that would be a really big hit. And if it turns into a permanent retheme, I'm totally cool with that. But I have the feeling that Tiana's Bayou Adventure is going to be going through a lot of updates, like little ones. Like recently they posted some new objects outside of the kitchen, and they're making little changes here and there. And the ride isn't even open yet officially, but I have a feeling that's going to be an ongoing process from here until they feel like the Imagineers are happy with the final product. Because I don't think that operations is happy. I don't think WDI is happy. It's very obvious that operations rushed WDI to push this thing early.
Oh, yeah.
Otherwise, it wouldn't be having the problems that it's having 7 days before the grand opening.
Yeah.
So, this is going to be a work in progress for a while. With regards to Dr. Facilier, just to come back around to my comment, I hope it comes back as a Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween. That'd be fantastic. And and if it becomes a fan favorite, which I think it would be, I think that if they did a Dr. Facilier overlay, it would be the most popular ride that is open during that festival in the park. Maybe even stealing all the thunder from Haunted Mansion, because they don't do anything with that ride during Mickey's Not So Scary. It's not like a Nightmare Before Christmas where they just give it, they give guests a whole new experience for, a couple months out of the year. So what do you guys think? Do you guys think that a Dr. Facilier retheme is in the works? Do you think WDW would warm up to it? Do you think it's inevitable? Where do you guys sit with that?
I personally think that it would give people the excuse to want to pay for that extra upcharge for Mickey's Not So Scary, because quite frankly, they haven't really added anything new to it. I mean, at least with Oogie Boogie Bash over at Disneyland or at DCA, they add in new villains, new treat trails. They try to implement something different, and they try to plus it, as Walt would say, each Halloween season. But for Mickey and Minnie's Not So Scary, Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, I feel like the only thing that was new, which they've had for several years now, was the Hocus Pocus Spooktacular.
Right.
And it feels like after that, there was nothing else done after that. So I think if they were to take a brand new attraction and give guests that notion, hey, Dr. Facilier is coming from the other side this Halloween season, it would not even just give a different experience of the ride, but it could possibly get some of the people of the naysayers to say, you know what, maybe we should give this another go, because as of right now, Tiana's is kind of like in the middle ground where it's like it's not being kind of perceived with open arms, if you will. But if they kind of do like a mission breakout, like Monsters Unleashed kind of thing that they do for Oogie Boogie Bash, I think it would be very popular.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think the last thing they did to Not So Scary, I think you're right, it was the Hocus Pocus thing. Mm-hmm. But I think they also redid the Boo to You parade like last year. They redid all the floats or something like that. They changed a lot of them up. So I mean, that was the only thing they did. I've heard the rumor, and I know I'm kind of getting back to this, that they said Dr. Facilier might be problematic with the voodoo, and that they specifically removed Mama Odie's description of her having anything to do with voodoo in one of the Parks blog articles, where they called her the fairy godmother of the bayou or something like that. But what I say to that is, why can't we just call Dr. Facilier something like you just call him the Shadow Man, and then you just completely remove any sort of voodoo sort of stuff with it, and you just do that. So I think there's a perfect way they can incorporate him into the ride now without even breaking like the whole canon of him being like dead, quote unquote. I think the way you could do it, so before you go into where the laughing place is now, where she's on the screen now, I think what you could do right before that point, you could maybe have some sort of projections that like of the shadows trying to attack you, and then Mama Odie's like, quick, come down here, you gotta escape. And then we go we shrink down, and then they like follow us around that whole area. And then the reason we're going up the lift hill is because Mama Odie's like, quick, I gotta save you to get us away from danger. And then as we're going up the lift hill, we get all the shadow creatures around us. We hear, "Are you ready?" And then we hear Mama Odie's animatronic can still be at the top, and she can like have her magic, whatever thing she has on, whatever she's holding, and she can be like fending them off with like her magic or whatever. And then that could be like your escape down to the party. I think
sounds like the last few months dealing with my ex, but
but the good old journey sent her back to the Shadowlands, right?
Of course, yes. But no, in all seriousness, that's something that I would consider, doing, at least, because even with Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, even though there's not like a full center villain, there's still an antagonistic issue that's going on, that it's like Mickey accidentally hit the track switch, the train goes all haywire, breaks up, they have to try to get the train back together, to everything just kind of goes in as Mickey Mouse shorts go all haywired, and there's reaching a goal, where with Tiana's Bayou there is essentially like a goal. You're trying to find the critters to add to the band at the end for the Mardi Gras celebration, but it would be nice just to have even some sort of
danger or
something.
Suspense.
Yeah,
because I was watching an interview with Tony Baxter about the original Splash Mountain, and he was talking about how he was talking to, I guess, just a fan who said that they were extremely afraid of the drop in, I guess, the Disneyland version, and how they were so terrified of it. And when you finally go over it and you get to the zippity doo dah at the end, it brings a sort of accomplishment that you were able to get over the drop, and you were sent to this area of happiness and joy, and it leaves, he was saying it leaves a bigger impact than just the drop and going down it. So I think they need to add in some kind of suspense or danger before the drop. I mean, maybe it works better in person. Maybe in person it's not really, you know, it doesn't feel like something's missing, but I don't know. Anyway, that's just my opinion on it.
Yeah. As I said, I think in time, you know, it'll kind of flesh out, because as Slimer had said earlier, you know, the operations wanted this ride up and running. WDI wasn't ready. They did the best that they can to try to meet that quoted date. You know, it really should have been late 2024, possibly like out of the fall season into the winter season. But then that would also, I guess, change the opening date for Disneyland as well, because we were told that once they were finished with Tiana's down in Florida, a lot of the construction people went over to help out at Disneyland to get it moving, which is why we're probably seeing a much faster pace for that to open for in Critter Country. So if the dates for the one at Walt Disney World would have stayed, I feel like that would have hindered Disneyland's opening probably into like the early 2025. But what do you guys think of that?
Yeah, I think they're definitely I think Disneyland is maybe taking a step back and thinking about opening it up so early now that Walt Disney World is having all these operational challenges. I think I heard rumors on Twitter that the cast member previews, the last couple ones, were being canceled as they are trying to get this last weekend to try to work out as many things as they can. I don't know if that's true, but I really hope they just hammer in and try to figure out whatever the problems are with the ride and why it's shutting down so much before it officially opens. Because if it officially opens and it's still having all these hour-long shutdowns and having to evacuate all the time, that's not going to be good. I don't know.
Yeah, and not only that, but the biggest problem they're going to have is if they have to switch the animatronics to going on a continuous loop as opposed to being trigger activated, which means that the ride's not going to work. Like the original concept of their dialogue starting once your boat comes within a certain proximity to the animatronic, and then that scene begins, and then it resets, and then it begins again for the next one. If they have to transition it from that trigger system to being on a continuous loop all the time, I mean, then it loses a lot of the luster that the ride was designed to be like, you know? And that'd probably be other than the ride shutting down all the time, that would be the worst part of that. So I hope that doesn't happen, but I wouldn't be surprised if it does. You know, if that ride ends up just being in B mode for the rest of the time, just for that ride to work properly, don't be surprised.
That would be very.
That would be great. Yeah. Oh man. I don't know how the fans would take to that.
Imagine being stuck at one of the spots while you're waiting to go down because the logs sometimes back up and you just have to hear the same dialogue over and over again.
But let me tell you, that might work out in the best interest of WDI, because that would give them the justification to shut the ride down entirely and retheme it. And if they're going to shut the ride down entirely, so that way they can fix the triggering system, and then that'll, based off of the feedback of the general population, was going to start going there on June 28th.
So you're saying retheme in the sense where you still keep the Princess and the Frog IP, but retheme like the generalized storyline of it?
Yeah. Because what they're going to do is they're going to get the exit polls, and they're going to look at the exit polls, and they're going to say, hey, did we do a good job with satisfying the average customer? Or do they think it was great, good, average, fair, or bad? For an example, this isn't their polling. This isn't their polling information by any means. I don't know, but I would assume it would go something along those lines. Did you enjoy it more than Splash Mountain? Was it the same as Splash Mountain? Did you enjoy it less than Splash Mountain? Right? You're gonna have people that lie about it, but for the majority, I think they're gonna be very honest about it. And then they're gonna say to themselves, "Hey, is there anything we can add?" And maybe generate higher guest satisfaction with this attraction. It's not new. They do it with most rides. You know, most ride systems get little tweaks after they've been open to the general population for a couple of months. So, you know, if for whatever reason they have to shut it down to rework it, you know, that'd be a great opportunity for them to plus it a little bit and then fix the problem and then move forward.
Yeah. Okay. Any more final thoughts for Tiana's before we move on?
I just want to say, I think the general public, for people who actually go on the ride and don't look at it on a video, are going to enjoy it mostly the same as they did Splash Mountain, because it's a fun log flume ride, as it always is, with great animatronics. You got the critters. It's great music, and I think I agree with. I don't know if you guys watched WDWNT's honest review with Tom and Eric. They did a review of it, and that's what Tom said. He thinks that most people who go on this will think that will enjoy it the same as Splash Mountain, and I agree. I have not been on it in person, but I think that's what's going to happen. I think the general public will not care about. Well, I can guarantee you, I don't think the general public is going to care about whether there's 60 animatronics or 40.
Oh, absolutely. This ride, the way that it is designed and it looks, it was made to be for the general public, for the normies. This was, I don't think really was never intended for it to be like this ultimate Disney fan craze kind of ride. Now, having said that, Slimer and I will be experiencing it within a month or so, but it's I think I'll still enjoy it. You know, I think it's just, for me, it's just a fun ride, you know, adding new animatronics, new music, new lighting package, and then of course being able to go and do the log and you know, go down, you know, the 50-foot drop again, you know. And I've seen several videos from Bricky and Tim Tracker, but they seem like they got soaked on it. I don't know if they added like extra water features to it, but yeah. and I've seen them sitting in the log. I've never seen anybody get that wet on Walt Disney World's version of Splash Mountain, at least. I know Disneyland you get soaked. The water literally fills up the log. But so I don't know if they added more features to it.
I want there to be so much water in it that I sink.
Yeah.
Well, they've had problems with that with Splash Mountain in the past.
Yes. Let's sink this ship.
Yeah, I've been hearing seeing several videos about how the water levels have seemed to be turned up. That reminds me, I remember when I went to Disneyland and I went on Splash Mountain, and we were like, it was the middle of the day, it was hot, it was the middle of the summer. We were like, oh, let's go on Splash Mountain. We went on, we're like, oh, we're not going to get that way. It's not going to be that bad. Oh, we were wrong. We were soaking the rest of the day. It was not very fun.
I remember the first time I went on Disneyland Splash Mountain. I didn't know what to expect because I was just so used to Florida's. And sure enough, I was in the front seat of that log. And it was that second drop inside of the mountain where you can't see. And oh my gosh, like I think that day, I think I used every curse word in the book, and I finally spoke in the Italian tongue, because I was soaked, I was drenched.
You just went full Pentecostal, huh?
Yes, I did. Yes. But so all in all, I think it's going to be a fun ride regardless. Does it need some tweaking operations wise? Some, probably a lot. Is there potential to add more? Absolutely. But hopefully we'll see with Disney, because I think that can kind of be a hit or miss. But moving over to Epcot, and I think this is going to be a fascinating topic because Slimer and I were talking about this before the show. And a lot of people have been discussing whether, you know, everything that was announced for the new and improved upgrade to Epcot is not exactly what the final product was when they finished with Communicore Hall.
Oh, no.
And a lot of people are kind of sticking to the nostalgia of Epcot, of how it started out in the 80s and even into the 90s and what have you. And for me, and we all know how Disney is notorious for adding popular IP into the parks, depending on how well they do, you know, in theaters or on streaming and what have you. But with the financial success of Inside Out 2, I could definitely see Inside Out coming to the parks in a much bigger way, not just with a simple reskin spinner ride from a Bug's Land over at DCA. Yes, I'm talking about you, Emotional Whirlwind. But I could see them utilizing that IP on a much grander scale. And honestly, I think the best spot, and I know people, I know you're going to hate me for it, but I can definitely see it going into the Imagination Pavilion. What does that mean for the fate of Figment? I don't know. I was also having that discussion with Slimer. I can see Figment being 50-50, where if they do decide to make that Figment movie that they teased, as long as the storyline, I think, is strong, it can maybe create a new generation for people to kind of get used to Figment. Other than that, I mean, they have the Figment meet and greet. I don't know what the wait times for that is. I know people waited an arm and a leg of a time to get the popcorn bucket. You know, you get the merch and what have you, but I don't know how much leg life Figment will have, depending on, even if they update the Imagination Pavilion, what does it update to, depending on if this Figment movie moves forward, and how successful would that be? And I think, honestly, Disney is going to lean more towards something that's more beneficial for them and for the fans. And I think it's going to be Inside Out. But as I said, we were talking about it before the show, but if you wanted to elaborate on that a little more, Slimer.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and you've pretty much captured everything perfectly. So anything that I say from here on out is going to be pretty derivative. The problem with Figment is that outside of the theme park fan base, and a very small one at that, it does not have the draw that Inside Out does. And right now, Disney is looking to put Inside Out somewhere in theme parks. And I can assure everybody that when it comes to D23, Inside Out is probably going to be an announcement. But seeing as the number's already over 700 million worldwide in 1 week and probably going to hit $1 billion after 2, Disney is most certainly thinking about how they're going to be incorporating Inside Out into the theme parks in a very big way. And I'm thinking like Frozen kind of a big way. I mean, these are huge numbers that Inside Out 2 is generating right now. It is breaking all sorts of records when it comes to week over week, opening weekend, animation records. Look, Walt Disney's they're gonna bank on this film as big as possible. Now, what theme park are they going to put it in here in Florida? I mean, it really comes down to 2 parks. You know, you got Hollywood Studios and you have Epcot. Okay. If they put it in Hollywood Studios, that's great. You know, there's a lot of Pixar stuff over there. They can throw it in the Animation Pavilion. They can do another e-ticket attraction, add it to the laundry list of e-ticket attractions they have over at Hollywood Studios, because that's nothing but e-ticket attractions. So to just be another one over there. Or they could replace, Journey into the Imagination. And if I were Disney, I'd probably replace Journey into Imagination. It just does not. It's not lucrative. It's not a lucrative property. And you could sit here and say, "Hey, look, there's a lot of Disney fans that like it," but I can assure you that if you take all the Disney fans that love Journey to the Imagination, put them in a room, put all the Inside Out people that pay to watch it this weekend, the Inside Out people are going to outnumber Journey by far. It's not even close. It's a very lucrative property right now. This is going to be put into multiple parks internationally within the next 2 to 3 years. This is going to be the next big IP project in the way that Frozen was. So I think that Journey to Imagination is as good as that ride has served Epcot. I think it's on its last legs. The average wait time is 10 to 15 minutes. And that right there, like, where are the fans? Like, if this thing has an average wait time of 15 minutes, where are the fans? I mean, Peter Pan is that's an old attraction. We're talking what, 1954?
For Peter Pan?
Yeah.
1953.
1953. 75-minute wait. They just built a whole land in Tokyo, and one of the attractions is Peter Pan. Okay. That has more pull than Figment does. So why are we talking about spending, hundreds of millions of dollars into retheming or plussing Journey into Imagination when they can easily put Inside Out there and instantly overnight, once that ride opens up, 200-minute wait, guaranteed. Figment's not going to get a 200-minute wait with a retheme. I can guarantee you that. It's not. It doesn't get it now. I mean, like, it doesn't get it now. It doesn't get it in the busiest day of the year. So I think
the only time it will was when they make that announcement that it's going to close forever. You're going to get that final day. You're going to get like a 3-hour wait for that thing.
100%. Now, look, if they can figure out a way to, plus Journey into Imagination and put Inside Out into Epcot, that's great. I'm all for that. Add more. Walt Disney World does not need to take away more attractions. They need to be adding attractions. But as it stands, Walt Disney World is not in the business of spending as much money as possible. They're in the business of budget cuts. And the thing about the budget cuts is if I had a nickel for every time, somebody complained about budget cuts, I'd be a millionaire. But it's so funny that people complain about it like this is a new occurrence. I mean, they've been doing budget cuts since 1955. There are very few attractions which actually met and exceeded what was announced in the concept design or the inaugural announcement. So get used to that. Look at Disney history. It's nothing new. Budget cuts are here to stay. So I'm going to pass it on to you guys. I think I've said enough about Inside Out. It's going to come to Epcot. If not, it's going to come to Hollywood Studios, and it's going to come to Disneyland Forward too. Almost guaranteed.
All right.
Okay.
What do you think, Starship?
Okay, I have a rebuttal to your Journey into Imagination not getting wait time, change it to Inside Out, will go up rant. Okay, so ready for some hot takes here. Right. So you're saying that if you change over Journey into Imagination Inside Out, it'll instantly get like 200 something like wait time or whatever. So my rebuttal to that is, what is the wait time for Emotional Whirlwind all the time? Because just because that's an Inside Out doesn't mean it's popular at all. So
I don't know, but I don't know what the wait time is, but it's not an e-ticket attraction, so I don't think that'd be a fair comparison.
True. Anyway, I do have an idea though. I think there's a way to do this. Well, okay. So first of all, I don't think Inside Out is going to replace Journey into Imagination. Here's why. There was a while ago, apparently Pete Docter is a massive Disney Parks fan and is a massive fan of Journey into Imagination from what I have heard online. And he apparently the idea to replace Journey into Imagination with Inside Out was brought up years ago, and it was shot down by Pete Docter because Pete Docter is a huge Journey into Imagination fan and said, I'm not allowing you to replace that. I don't know if that's true. That's just that was the word on the street. So that's one of the reasons why I don't think it's going to happen. Does Pete Docter really have any say? Realistically, probably not. But that was something that was brought up. Now, if they want to go in the direction of putting Inside Out in there anyway, I have an idea to both save Figment and add Inside Out. So, in the film Inside Out, there is a whole area within Riley's mind. If you have not seen Inside Out, then frankly, I don't know why you're watching this video. But there is a part in her mind called Imagination Land. So, how can we incorporate Figment? Well, what we can do is we can go inside Riley's mind, and the way Figment comes in is, say, we go into Imagination Land. Say somehow the emotions like get out of headquarters or whatever, and they end up in Imagination Land, and Figment's there, and Dreamfinder's there, and he's like, guys, we gotta get out of this, we gotta get you guys back to headquarters, and like that's the whole point of the ride. I think that would be I don't know if the hardcore Epcot fans would like it. They probably wouldn't. Most hardcore park fans probably would hate this idea, but I think it's a cool idea. I think it's a way you could bring Inside Out and save Journey into Imagination. You keep one little spark in there, and you could do, you know what? Dreamfinder. You could fly on Dreamfinder back to headquarters. His like thing. There you go. Take my ideas.
I wish that if that would be the case, that they would have kind of solidified, possibly even given Figment a like a little cameo in Inside Out 2 or something. Which I definitely could see the way how Figment is. Even within the movie, they have in Riley's mind Dream Productions, you know, where they have like all like the kind of crazy wacky characters that Riley dreams up. And they're also going to have a Dream Productions Inside Out series that's going to be added onto Disney Plus. So I mean there is a possibility that if they can kind of share the building, where like maybe they have something of Figment still part of Imagination, maybe not the ride, but just having Figment's presence there, but have the actual ride itself be Inside Out. I don't think Figment's going to go away completely. I just feel like that the attraction itself, I feel like Disney is going to lean more towards the popular IP, because of not even knowing of how, even if they do decide to do a film of Figment, if it's even going to be, you know, even if it's going to be popular enough.
Yeah, but I don't think Figment is going anywhere. I think he sells way too much merchandise for Figment to be going anywhere. I mean, I think they have to be at least seriously considering. Well, they have to be considering redoing Imagination, because that ride is. How can it continue to be going on the way it is for so long? I don't know how they've let it. Well, there's a lot of things we don't know how they let it get to the state they are, but. Just they need to do something about that pavilion, whether that's turning it into Inside Out or redoing Imagination or just doing a new version of Imagination. They need to do something, because right now it is a shit show. So that's
I like your idea of incorporating Figment into Inside Out, because that way Disney gets two birds with one stone. You know what I mean? And they're going to make park fans happy by keeping Figment in a ride. And, you know, you have Inside Out in it as well. And Figment can be one part of the ride, or he can, like you said, they can incorporate him into the story one way or another. But I really like that, you know, and like I said, you know, they instead of building two different ride systems for both Inside Out and Figment, they can just combine it, and they're going to get more bang for their buck, you know?
Or what we do is we put Inside Out into the former Wonders of Life, which has been sitting empty for years, and we actually do something with that. But you know, that might cost money to actually add something, so they might not do that.
God forbid.
God forbid they spend their $60 billion of their turbocharged, quote unquote.
Yeah, they got to turbocharge that Wonders of Life, don't they? That place has been empty. Oof, how long now?
Oh gosh, I was
married.
Yeah, I can't believe they would even let that building sit stagnant for that long. I know it was supposed to eventually become the Play Pavilion, but I mean, I just wish that they would put. And I know that they thought of utilizing it for, you know, festivals and seasonal stuff, but basically the whole entire park is festivals and seasonal stuff. Right. So it's like, why just, you know, subdue it to one building? I would actually utilize that space and put something permanent in there.
They built a whole empty cafeteria for festival space. Come on, use that first, you know?
Exactly. And now you have even more space for festivals in the World Celebration area. You know, the weirdest thing about the World Celebration area is how they have a stage, right, in the Celebration, and then they have one directly opposite in World Showcase. They have the amphitheater. So what's that all about? Like, why do they have two performance stages? I mean,
well,
do they have that many performances? Do they need to?
Well, the World Showcase stage in American Adventure is much bigger than that World Celebration stage.
Yeah.
There's also a bunch of little stages around World Showcase. I think there's one in Canada too. There's a couple around the place. So I think I don't think having more stages is a problem. I welcome more live entertainment.
I do too. I just question if they have a performance in World Celebration, but then the amphitheater that provides shade in July is empty, and they're not utilizing that for that performance, then I question the best interests of the guests on Disney's part.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and speaking of July, because we were also discussing this as well, that with the 4th of July festivities that they usually have for the guests to partake in, especially with Epcot, because Epcot is, aside from Magic Kingdom, I think Epcot is like the place to be during the 4th of July day or weekend. But again, I don't know if like a lot of the cutbacks with everything as far as the festivities this year is due to, because I mean, even Iger had mentioned it during one of the quarterly earnings, you know, it's going to be a lighter summer for Walt Disney World. I don't think it was proclaiming for Disneyland, and if it did, I don't see it, because I've been out there several times this year, and the crowds have just been booming in California. So as far as for Florida goes, I haven't been there since January, so it'll be kind of interesting to see the comparison between the California parks and the Florida parks. But I could see why they would cut back, you know, some of the 4th of July festivities, that if they're anticipating a slower summer, then why put out that money, you know? Because usually for the 4th of July, those parks get really packed.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you guys' takes on that?
Starship, have you been there for 4th of July, bud?
No, thank God. What I am interested to see this year is, they originally announced there was going to be they were going to do 2 Heartbeat of Freedoms at Epcot. They were going to do one on the 3rd and one on the 4th. Usually they only do that at Magic Kingdom. They only do the 3rd and the 4th, July 4th fireworks on both days. But they were going to do that both this year. And then a couple of days later, they changed the park blog to say, oh, only on the 4th now. And then they removed the extended hours at Magic Kingdom. So I don't know what that was about, why they decided to announce that and then rescind it. That was very dumb. That's clearly some sort of miscommunication between like park ops and like the parks blog or something, which happens all the time, but that's another story. Anyway, what I'm interested to see this year is I'm really interested to see how they incorporate the new luminous barges into the Epcot show, because we haven't had, I mean, they used the harmonious barges for 4th of July, that for the Heartbeat of Freedom. I'm really curious to see how they utilize them this year, because they utilized them for New Year's, and they've already used them for like some after hours like GVC thing. So they're definitely going to use them. I think it'd be really cool, because during Luminous they do the heart fireworks coming out of the barges. I think it'd be really cool if when they say Heartbeat of Freedom in the show, they reuse those heart fireworks during that part. I hope they do that, because that would be very cool.
I know what you're talking about, and yeah, that would be very cool.
Nice.
It would be a huge missed opportunity if they did.
Yeah. Well, of course, if it makes sense, Disney won't do it. So
exactly.
Well, you know, before you go on, George, you know, when it comes to the elimination of after hours and you know, the consolidation of the festivities for July 4th, from an operational perspective, it tells me that they just aren't projecting the guest attendance they were prior years. So they're going to take cost cutting measures and try to get everybody into the Magic Kingdom to watch their main event, and anybody that wants to go to Epcot during that day, they'll have a show for them as well. It won't be as bombastic and extravagant, but it'll be there. But yeah, there's certainly some cost cutting measures being done there due to lack of guest attendance. But that's par for the course. That's normal.
Do you both feel that this year in particular is where it's kind of like in the middle ground as far as like with the park attendance, because they're just getting out of the rut of the political issues between the state of Florida and Walt Disney World. You know, they've taken care of all those issues. We're going to get a lot of news coming out of D23. Do you feel like this would be moving forward, like in comparison to what maybe next summer's 4th of July would look like to this one? Do you think it would be a night and day transition, so to speak, as far as like the crowd level goes? What would say you, Starship?
I don't know what's going to happen next year because Epic Universe is opening. So who knows how that's going to affect the crowds? Are more people going to go to Disney because of Epic Universe opening, or less people going to go? They're going to go to Universal instead? I mean, that's been the question, isn't it? Whether Universal is going to take crowds away from Disney? We shall see. I think it all depends on Epic Universe, really, next year.
That's interesting. I mean, I know like how people can have like a certain amount of days to take off for vacations and what have you, but I feel like between Disney and Universal, I feel like people are going to kind of customize their own trips of what they want to do with each resort. Obviously, people are going to go to Epic Universe, no doubt about it. I don't really see people going to the original Universal Studios park as of right now. There's just like not too much to do. I can maybe see them cutting back on maybe an Animal Kingdom day or what have you. So I can kind of see where it can help Disney, but yet it could also be detriment, because I feel, yeah, it can kind of go either way. I feel like that people would still go to Disney, even with going down to Epic Universe, because I feel to extend your stay, I don't necessarily see them spending a whole week at Epic Universe. As I said, they may do a day at Islands of Adventure or what have you, but I think that's where a lot of people, they stay on Universal property, they go over to Disney and vice versa. So that's what I think. Honestly, I think Epic Universe would kind of hit more towards their own parks than actually lowering guest attendance at Disney. And that's just my opinion. I don't know if that's going to go, but we'll definitely have to see on that.
Yeah, I gel with that, man. I mean, just from my own perspective, the Universal crowd and the Disney crowd are two completely demographics, and you can usually gauge that by the amount of strollers at Universal Studios, or the lack thereof. There just aren't as many strollers. The parking lot for strollers isn't as vast. The ride types and things like that. Epic Universe is certainly going to affect park attendance. What that is going to look like, we'll see. Whether Islands is going to be more affected or whether Universal is going to get more affected. Personally, I think Islands is actually going to be more affected because Universal Studios right now has the new DreamWorks land that just opened up. They have Cinesational, which is it's a summer show. However, it's super popular. I can see them holding onto this thing for a long time and expanding it into the normal year. And then you also have the Mega Movie Parade, which hasn't even been released yet. That comes out next month. So Universal is certainly stepping it up to ensure that they are not, the third wheel when it comes to the Universal parks. Now, with regard to Islands, they got some strong properties over there, but to be honest with you, it's kind of an old park. I mean, other than Hagrid's and what else? King Kong, which was introduced, 6-7 years ago. It's kind of stale, In my opinion, Islands is a stale park. You have Lost Continent, which has no attractions. And then you have Toon Lagoon, which, most people don't even know who Popeye is, born after the year 1990, And no offense if you do, but the reality is Popeye was created in like 1919 or 1921.
Yeah.
So it's an old IP. So Islands for sure is, in my opinion, is going to get the brunt of the effect of Epic Universe. But look, rising tide raises all ships. That's exactly what's going to happen after 2025. 2025 is going to be a mess because you have a new park opening. People are certainly going to want to check it out. Disney's not going to have enough time to introduce any new things to, bring people over there versus Epic Universe. But that's okay. Magic Kingdom's always going to be number one.
I feel like that's a good thing in a way, because I feel like when there's so much going on that's brand new that would kind of go for both resorts at the same time, I feel like that would be completely overwhelming for guests and especially for vacationers. It's like, because there's going to be operational issues. We got operational issues with one attraction with Tiana's Bayou Adventure. This is going to be the first Orlando Central Park that's been built since Islands of Adventure was the last one, correct? In 1999.
1999, yeah.
So, I'm not saying it's going to be a disaster, but I think it's going to be far from perfect, which anything is going to that's brand new. You're going to have the bugs and the kinks that you have to work out. And I think if you were to get that on both for Walt Disney World and Universal at the same time, I'd rather it kind of go like a ping pong ball. Like, let Universal do their thing, have Disney, kind of get ready for theirs, and just kind of like it go as like a back and forth thing. Because I think that's where it can kind of get overly crowded. I feel like it can get overly complicated. And so I think honestly, let Universal, kind of flesh out Epic Universe before Disney makes their move.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would not be surprised. You're saying, I think Universal Studios Florida is going to be the one that's going to get cut from most people's vacations. So I don't think DreamWorks Land is going to do anything for people. Maybe for people with young kids. I'm sure it'll do something for them. DreamWorks Land looks extremely cheap to me. The only thing that looks interesting in DreamWorks Land is the Shrek little area and the meet and greet thing with, I think there's a donkey animatronic, but I think that was already there before they just moved it. Either way, I don't think DreamWorks Land is going to do anything. And I think what's most likely to happen is either Universal Studios Florida is going to get cut. But I would not be surprised if a lot of people skip Animal Kingdom. Because, one, Dino Land is going to close. So that's going to be even less attractions than there are now. And it's already doesn't stay open very late. I would not be surprised if people end up just going to 4 parks, which is the 3, Epcot, Magic Kingdom, Hollywood, and then they go to Epic Universe.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely, man. Animal Kingdom's going to get hammered for the next couple of years. They really are. Because the thing about it is, I mean, like, honestly, in my opinion, my wife, she prefers Animal Kingdom over Busch Gardens. I prefer Busch Gardens over Animal Kingdom. It's a more seasoned park. There's more rides that I'm interested in. In terms of the zoology aspect of the park, it's superior. I mean, the park was established in 1959. It's even older than Walt Disney World by a good measure. So if I were to have a preference of going to one versus the other, I'm going to pick Busch Gardens until Indiana Jones and Encanto open at Animal Kingdom. While I enjoy Animal Kingdom, it's a lot of visual fluff with animals. But when you go to Magic Kingdom, there's like a lot, there's things to do, and same with Epcot. You go to Epcot for 2 days, to really wrap it up. And yeah, Epic Universe is for sure going to be that. Hey, if we got to pick a third park to go to.
Well, and especially too, like they added Pandora in a sense to kind of add more to the day for people to enjoy at Animal Kingdom. And for some time, the park would stay open later because you would have Pandora, you would have Rivers of Light. They don't have that show anymore. Mm-hmm. And they closed the park at 6 p.m., and this is during the summertime. And it's like 6, 7 p.m. and it doesn't get fully dark. So you can't even explore or experience the bioluminescent forests of Pandora at night because the park's closing before you even see it. So it's like, why did Disney even put all that effort, time, effort, and money into an effect of a whole entire land when people can't even see it anyway, other than just the night crew and maintenance and custodial? It's like I don't get it. I mean, I know that'll probably change in time, especially with the Tropical Americas coming. If they add that, they're gonna have to change the operational hours for that park.
Yeah, 100%.
If you're gonna add Indiana Jones and Encanto, it's like something's got to give. Something's got to,
especially in Kanto. I mean, Kanto has its whole like nighttime aspect in the movie. You know, there's a lot of things that happen in that movie that are in dark areas, dark scenes. You know, especially if they want to have a Mystic Manor type ride in there, e-ticket attraction, which is, you know, again, you know, it's going to be a darker ride. So yeah, they got to do something with that area. They got to expand the park hours, find ways to, you know, do things that don't violate PETA, you know, and keep it open at least an extra hour or two, because, you know, otherwise it's you know, it's going to be the back burner for all the Disney parks, when it's kind of a shame because, you know, at least aesthetically it's top tier, you know, it's right up there with the best.
Yeah. I really hope with Tropical America's opening that they also put a new lagoon show in that amphitheater, because that amphitheater has now been sitting empty with no shows of any kind there for like a couple of years now, ever since they stopped doing that Kite Tails thing.
Yeah.
And then
best show on Walt Disney World property.
It was incredible. It was I really enjoyed seeing my favorite characters get thrown into benches. It was great. It was the best show ever. But no, they really need to put a show. I hope they give something similar to Cinesational with fountains and drones. Obviously not fireworks because it's Animal Kingdom. But do something like that and just make it, you know, animal nature themed. And I think that would be a very big hit. I don't really fully remember, but I don't think Rivers of Light was really considered a failure. Besides, I mean, some people did. I think the original version of Rivers of Light was very good. I liked it a lot. And I think the only reason it went bad was because they didn't want to pay the live actors anymore, and they just made it the barges on the screen. And that's when it went to shit.
Yeah. I feel like that Rivers of Light had great aspects to it. I feel like there was a lot of technical issues, like with the barges and what have you. But again, Disney putting out money and turning that into a permanent amphitheater with benches and everything. And it's like, again, it's just sitting there, not doing nothing with it. Like, they could do something. I mean, I know Disney probably wouldn't go towards anything like of a World of Color type of thing where
they've had,
because there's like a lot of like electrical
issues with that.
Yeah, especially like adding like the platform below the water, raising it up and everything. World of Color was a one and done deal, which they have to keep it now, especially at DCA, because you know it's nighttime spectacular. But moving forward, I don't think they would ever do anything that intricate as far as like that kind of nighttime show. But I do agree. I think they should put something in there that could be appealing.
I definitely think, because we see with Luminous, they have the barges that come out and they have all the fountains on them, and you know, and the lighting. I think they could do something like that. We're gonna have barges come out with a bunch of fountains and say lighting on them that could give a World of Color feel, but not have all the issues that the platform has. I think they could definitely do something like that. That would work.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think that they're looking at drones as a very viable option as well, being that definitely. They don't create a lot of sound. So, you know, for the animals, it's going to be perfect, you know. If they can incorporate that into some kind of a water show with the barges in the lagoon area, fantastic. I think that'd be a great show. But Animal Kingdom does need a winning nighttime show. And it's too bad too, right? Like, because the Tree of Life always had a great projection presence. A lot of people don't know about that. I don't know if I haven't stayed in Animal Kingdom past sundown for so long, because I'm always like in a rush to get out of there, because like hey, it's like 5 o'clock, they're closing in 30 minutes, you know what I mean? And I'm always trying to beat everybody out of the parking lot. But do they even do the projection show? And sorry for my ignorance, but do they still do that on the Tree of Life? Because
I honestly don't know.
I think they only do it when it's like winter and it gets dark early, and even then I don't think they do it very often, because they close the park earlier.
Yeah, that's garbage, because that's a fantastic show. That honestly, I mean, the projection show, whenever they did that on the Tree of Life, to me it's top tier. That's I mean, that has a potential to be up there with Happily Ever After. You know,
Yeah,
now if they
it
can
does.
bring the drones, that's a winner, chicken dinner. I mean, they just got to get the permission to be open past sundown.
And I think that will, and that's what's stopping them. It's they got rid of all the nighttime kind of entertainment with the bioluminescent forest of Pandora, the tree of life, the rivers of light. I think if they were to bring some of those aspects back, and then as you said, Slimer, with the drones, you know, you're not really dealing with anything of pyro or loud sounding that can disturb or potentially harm the animals.
Mm-hmm.
So I think. Yeah, I mean, they could even instead of having that stay as a theater where they had the Rivers of Light, maybe drain the water and turn it into a gigantic platform and completely block that off, and that's where the drones could kind of take the start of the show, because they all have to start the mod somewhere. So rather than it be in the backstage area, that could become a kind of forefront for the show, so they can kind of have the production people, you know, get the drones ready, and then when the show starts, you could basically maybe not have a specific spot in the park. You could just kind of like stand anywhere, but that's where it essentially starts. I think that would be. I mean, I think that would be a possibility.
Right. The only problem with that, for me at least, is that I think you need some kind of water element in there to just add something else besides just drones. Because if it's just drones, it's kind of just like the Disney Spring Show, which is great, but I think you need something else there too to make it like a true nighttime show, like they have at Universal now.
Well, that, and it's like the opposite of naturalistic, right? So like you're using technology in a show that showcases nature. So you know what would be really cool is if they found out a way to do bioluminescent algae. And
Okay.
you know, I'm talking about that bioluminescent algae you can find in coast, like there's some in coastal Florida. I mean, they're everywhere, right? If they can figure out a way to incorporate that into the lagoon, I mean, that'd be great. Like if they could figure out a way to put on a show, an unconventional show where the park lights up using bioluminescent plants and animals, but that really make you go, wow, this is not only just fascinating, but it's unique. That would be a win too, because it's natural. It's you know, it's non-hazardous as far as, you know, the animals, and it would be different. You know, you wouldn't be utilizing technology. You'd be utilizing nature to show off its uniqueness and its ability to light up when needed. You know.
Yeah. That is true. And again, we came up with all this in just a short period of the conversation, but apparently it's common core for all those big time designers.
That's right. Disney's going to do Common Core math till they figure it out, right?
Now, speaking of nighttime spectaculars, and we were touching upon some aspects with Universal, what do you fellas think of the kind of nighttime and even just the entertainment now coming to Universal? Again, Slimer, you and I are going to be experiencing that in the coming weeks, but overall, I think it's a pretty solid entertainment package with the nighttime show, the parade, and what have you. I can kind of see you know, anything entertainment related added to any theme park is a plus. So I think Universal's doing pretty good at that with the entertainment.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think Cinesational is one of the. It's everything. It's, well, not everything, but it's basically exactly what I've always kind of wanted from Universal in terms of nighttime shows. They had that. What was it called? Cinematic Celebration, something like that.
Right.
I don't know. I haven't seen any of these shows in person, but when I looked up that show, I saw it and I was like, I mean, it's just World of Color, but if it was Universal, and it wasn't very well done. So I wasn't really a huge fan. This show really, what really I think makes this particular show good is not the drones or the fountains or the fireworks or whatever. I think it's that they really play into those emotional moments and the music that Disney shows have done for so long that Universal just like I feel like they couldn't do, and I think now they've finally done that, and the intro to that show is very Disney, but it's Universal. I really think it was a very well done show. I don't think it's as good as any of the Disney shows, but I do think it's very, very close fourth to like the Disney shows right now.
Starship, it's so funny you said that because the other day we were talking about Sensational. I was like, Sensational, produced by Walt Disney World. I mean, the opening and the closing narrative is so Disney. I was just like, did they outsource Disney to do this? Because like, damn, like this is some like it just sounds like Disney, you know. I'm super impressed by what I've seen on the computers. I haven't seen it in person yet. I did see what is it? Marathon of Mayhem back in 2019, Halloween Horror Nights. That was a fantastic show. And in my opinion, that was the best one that they did. Halloween Horror Nights 30 also had a really good show. I didn't see that one because I didn't go to HHN 30. I went to 2029 or whatever number it was. The one with the Ghostbusters. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was fantastic, you know, and you know, obviously they've learned from those productions and they found ways to improve it. They got the new water jets that go 130 feet, the 4K projectors. The one thing I love about a Starship is I love the creative utilization of the projection to create movie scenes. Like, for example, when they do the Jaws part, you know, there's projection, right? Like there's
the projection around the buildings, and he goes,
he's like swimming in the water,
and turns into the drones. That was straight out of Happily Ever After. The way Happily Ever After does they go from the projections to there's multiple scenes in Happily Ever After, but one of them is during the Mulan scene where it's on the projection. They have her doing the firework thing. But in the film, when it goes up, it hits the avalanche. In the show, it's the way they did the projection. It's towards a launcher on the castle, so that when the thing goes off on the projection, it perfectly seamlessly goes into the firework. And they do that with Merida's bow too, where she shoots the bow on the projection, and then it turns into a fireworks, and that hits another firework in the sky. And they did very similar things in Sensational, and I love that. They
very good.
Back to the Future too.
Back to the Future. Not so much with Ghostbusters, but they do with a lot of them, where there's that synchronicity between what's going on in the water and then what happens in the sky. I think E.T. was another one where they did that. But,
and I think that's quite interesting because since that is such Disney fashion, that we're just so used to, you know, seeing the Disney IPs, you know, from the Disney films and what have you. But then we see the type of technology that's used for the show. But then, we see the IPs of Ghostbusters, E.T., Back to the Future, Jaws, King Kong. And it's like, whoa, it's like I should be watching a Disney show, but yet I'm not. It's like, this is trippy. This is like 70s trippy. This is like Woodstock trippy.
It's true. And you know, this is my generation stuff. So, you know, with regard to Disney animation, I watched Disney animation. Don't get me wrong. Like, you know, I saw The Little Mermaid when it came out of the theater. You know, I saw that opening week. I saw a lot of Disney animated stuff. But as far as like what hits home for me, it is absolutely 100% the Steven Spielberg films of the 1980s. You know, that's like what hits my nostalgia. You know, so the fact that Universal Studios finally is acknowledging that they have, you know, a library of films that they can tap into and play off of people's nostalgia and actually like do something with it. For me, it's like, finally, like, where have you been? We've been telling you this for the last, you know, 20 years. Cause Starship, as you know, Universal has a tendency of replacing IPs when a new IP comes out. That's a moneymaker, you know, and then they'll run that ride for 5-10 years and out it goes. And there's no nostalgic connection. They don't make that long-term connection with guests the way that Disney does.
Yeah, I mean, people always complain about Disney replacing classic attractions,
Oh,
but they got nothing on all the attractions they replaced in, was it Universal Studios Florida?
yeah.
They've replaced so many of those classic attractions with
The
just
only
like,
ride that's left is ET.
That's crazy. And here's the thing: I enjoy Escape from Gringotts. I think it's a cool ride. Do I feel like that they needed to take Jaws out? No. I Jaws is just a. That's why I want to go out to Japan, because it's the last Universal park that actually has the original Jaws kind of fashion ride. And I know it's old fashioned type of ride, but the fact that you get to sit in a boat and actually see this kind of anamorphic creature just coming straight out of the water and giving you that fright, like that first time you actually watch the film, is, I don't know. There's just something, as you guys were saying, it's that nostalgia to it. You know, it's what made Universal Universal. And it's like, you know, as I said, I do enjoy Gringotts and what have you, but I just wish that a little bit of the nostalgia could have stayed. I mean, we lost Earthquake to that fucking Fast and Furious party bus.
A shame, man. What a travesty, dude. but it's true, man. Like Starship, I don't know. Did you ride any of the classic rides at Uni?
no, I've never gotten to ride them.
The thing about Universal, the original ride systems that they had over there, is every single one of them was bombastic. Like they had the biggest animatronics in Orlando. Every ride was completely unique from the other, and that's kind of like what put them on the map. You know, I mean, yeah, King Kong, Jaws, Earthquake, you know, Ghostbusters or Twister, depending on, you know, what decade you're looking at. And then you have Back to the Future, which opened up, not open a year, but I think it was like a year later, something like that. But every ride system was completely unique. But the tendency now is to go, well, what track system can we put in there that uses, as you were pointing out, projections or, you know, very light animatronics, you know, nothing crazy. Like, we don't want to spend a lot of money and really blow people's minds. You know, we want to do it fiscally conservatively and entertain people just enough, you know? And not a lot of ride systems ever go to the depths that the old Universal attractions did, like Confrontation, for example, where you see a 60-foot King Kong twice. You know what I mean? It's lost. It's a lost art, you know?
Yeah.
Whatever theme park brings back that last art, that's what maybe Epic Universe does, you know? I don't know. We'll see.
And that's what's so frustrating, that, yeah, a lot of people get on Disney for removing nostalgia. And as Starship was saying, it's like Universal should be saying, hold my beer. Because like literally you have Back to the Future that became The Simpsons. You have Earthquake that became Fast and the Furious. You have Jaws that became Gringotts. You have the Fievel's Playland kind of thing that became the Shrek Swamp thing. It's just like they don't have the Nickelodeon studios anymore. It's an abandoned wasteland of a building.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, but yet, you know, Disney does it worse. You know, it's like, I don't like, I get it. You know, there are things that I don't agree with Disney, but it's like, again, we still have to hold Universal up to those expectations as well. If you're going to bitch about Disney doing it, Universal, you know, does the same. And I can't imagine, like, could we potentially be seeing E.T. eventually going? I mean, I don't know.
All right.
That would be bad. That would be bad if ET goes. But so before we close this Citrus Corner, Odd, any final thoughts from either one of you?
Well, I did want to bring up one more thing.
Oh, well,
they did say that there was going to be a halfway to holidays thing announcement tomorrow or this week or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And there have been rumors that the Dreamlights are coming back. And I know not everyone's a fan of the Dreamlights, but I am. Dreamlights are great. Bring them back now. No more frozen projections. F that. Dreamlights. That's all I want to say. Hopefully that happens. There's been a lot of hinting from like insiders that's going to happen.
And they said this announcement will come tomorrow.
They said, I think they said the holiday announcements are coming like throughout the week. I think they said.
Yeah.
So we'll know soon whether that happens.
I'm cool with the Dreamlights coming back every couple of years. If they alternated between projections and Dreamlights, nothing wrong with that. As far as like what is the more photogenic, the Dreamlights for sure, absolutely. It's not even the only thing is the Dreamlights do damage to the castles every time they have to put them on and off. Yeah, and I think that's their concern. But
maybe that'll Maybe that'll give them an excuse to repaint the castle back to its correct colors.
Yeah. It's still in that. What is it? Pink.
Yeah.
Rose gold or whatever.
You guys remember? Yeah, rose gold. Remember the rose gold crave, guys?
Oh yeah. I'm okay with it either way. I mean, I don't really have like a deep connection of like which one I would prefer. I do agree. I think aesthetically pleasing to the eye and for photo ops, I think the Dreamlights are a much better pick. I could see the route why Disney doesn't go that way because it's more costly with the painting and the possible damages to the tiling of the castle with the on again, off again. The lights that I wish would come back in some way, which I know that they won't, is I know. I miss them. I do. I really do. I was so bummed out. I mean, I was excited for Galaxy's Edge and Toy Story Land and everything, but I miss the hell out of the Osborne family spectacle of lights. That was always one of my favorites.
I don't understand why they can't put that on Hollywood. Not Hollywood,
yes,
whatever.
Where the Tower of Terror is. That's all they had to do was to shift.
You want to sell
from one side to the park to the other.
You want those Jollywood nights to sell out? Put Osborne lights back. That'll sell out.
Or do a mini version. I mean, they can go halfway and they would still have 500,000 lights. Like that's literally how many lights they had. They had over 1 million. So,
Osborne Family Spectacle of Lights, Light, sponsored by Budweiser. It's
the woke lights.
The woke lights. Yeah, but it's just like some of those subtle things that a lot of people didn't think put a major impact onto guest experience and park experience. But I mean, it did for me. And I don't know if it just hits me that way because I am a theme park enthusiast. I am a diehard Disney freak. But yeah, something like the Osborne Family Spectacle of Lights made a day at Hollywood Studios during the holidays a very unique, special experience.
Right. You're not going to get it anywhere else in the world. I mean, that is the only place. Maybe you would get it somewhere else in the world, but I mean, where? Not in the Southeast region of the United States.
Yeah.
So it was a unique offering, and that's kind of what Disney's likes. The luster they've lost over the years is kind of getting rid of these unique things. So yeah, I would love to see a lot of them come back. And Starship, you're right. Like once they figured out the logistics of Jollywood, not a lot of people showed up. It was just like it was just our first couple opening nights with vloggers, and then after that, it was pretty empty.
Yeah. I don't know. Like it's like one of those things where, especially when it's a hard ticket event that there's a premium upcharge for, it almost makes you. Oh, sorry, folks. There's the hype train. Never fails. Of course, OG isn't here to hit the. Oh no! I must have hit that track switch.
Hey, we just got to go manual, man. Just got to do it analog.
Yeah. But ever since I hit puberty, I can't do that high pitch. But but yeah, when they do the like those special upcharge premium events, I feel like that's where people are more critical at like what is available. It's because they are paying that extra upcharge, so they're going to be a little bit more picky to it. And I do know, with operational standpoint, that they're, people complain about, okay, the lines are long for the specialty drinks or the food or what have you, but I also think in the sense of where I think on Disney's part they need to stretch out the amount of time for each event. I think they need to make it a little bit longer. But also guests have to keep in mind is just like a regular day at the park, you're not going to be able to experience every single thing. And again, I think that gets blindsided because of that extra upcharge that they're already putting out an arm and a leg just to go to the park, but then to pay an extra amount on top of it is, that's where they become a little bit more critical.
I agree.
Yep. But I want to thank you both for joining me today on this Citrus Corner. Everyone, definitely comment down below on everything that we discussed, whether it's Universal, Epic Universe, Animal Kingdom, Epcot, Tiana's Bayou Adventure. I know that's always good in the conversation. But we ask, the only thing we ask is that you please keep it civil. That's all we ask. But I want to thank you both for joining me today. Starship, I'll start with you. If you would let everyone know where they can find you on social media.
Yep, you can find me on Twitter at Starship824, and you can also find me on YouTube at Starship824.
Nice. And Mr. Slimers be Slimin', it's always good to have you back on, bro, and so glad that you could join us. If you could let everyone know where they can find you on social media.
George, thanks for inviting me back on, gentlemen. It was a pleasure discussing parks with you. You guys can find me here on Orange Grove 55. You guys can find me on X at SlimeSquare84.
Nice. And of course, I am George the Italiano. You can find me on social media on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also find me on Instagram under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you can find me right here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner, with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info. I want to thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening. And as I always say, stay safe, stay healthy, stay Disney. Italiano out.
세상은 누구에게나 공평하게 추악해.